About a year ago, I did a video about photographers that were secretly making a ton of money and completely flying under the radar. One of these genres is volume photography. Think school photography, sports photography, corporate headshots. These photographers are cleaning up. You've never heard of them. And when I made that video, a few of them reached out to me behind the scenes. They told me how much money they were making. One of them was profiting over $1 million a year. And we were talking about potentially making an in-depth tutorial about this industry, but there were two main problems. Number one, managing these jobs is an absolute nightmare. How in the world do you keep track and keep happy hundreds or thousands of clients? And number two, even if you could figure out a system, how are you going to book these jobs? Because I actually looked into school photography years ago, and I learned that it was locked up. These school photographers are secretly making a lot of money. They have very tight relationships with principals of schools, and there is no way they are going to be losing these jobs. So I ended up putting volume photography out of my mind. Once again, I just thought it's too difficult to do until I got an email from Got Photo. They wanted to sponsor a video where I talk about their software that helps volume photographers. I told them my issue with volume photography, and they had an answer to both of my problems. Number one, the entire job being a logistical nightmare. They completely take over that aspect of the job. Their software allows you to upload a spreadsheet that the client makes of everyone that you're going to be photographing. Think like an entire school of kids. It's going to have all of their contact information and their parents' contact information. And when you upload it to their software, it's going to create an individual gallery for every single person that you're going to be shooting completely automatically. Got Photo supports all major tagging methods, including facial recognition, tethering, barcode scanning, an exclusive app, and Heather uses QR codes, which we'll talk about during her interview. You have complete control over this gallery. You can cull and edit images on the web if you want to. You also have control over the prices, so people can buy digital files or prints directly from their individual gallery. And it comes with an automatic contact system so that you can automatically contact every single person, letting them know their pictures are ready or warning them before the gallery is about to be removed. All right, cool. I didn't know software like this existed, but that still doesn't fix my second problem. How do you even go about getting these jobs? It seems like most of these jobs are already locked up. There's really no way to compete in this market at all. And they told me, oh, Lee, you need to talk to Heather Crowder. She's a professional portrait photographer who's figured out a way to get into all of the most prestigious schools and do school portrait photography that produces hundreds of thousands of dollars on its own, but more importantly, leads to even more money after the fact. I was able to interview Heather, and honestly, this is one of the most exciting and inspiring interviews I've ever done because Heather's business plan feels like something that anyone can do. I hope you enjoy this as much as I did because I have never heard of anyone else doing anything like this.
First of all, Heather, tell me quickly, how did you get into photography? Because I would imagine that the average person who's shooting, these volume, gigantic photo shoots, you don't just fall right into that. So what did you start shooting first of all?
Prior to being in this industry, I was in the scuba diving industry. And a big part of what I did for 15 years was leading scuba diving trips around the world. And a big part of what we did on those trips, of course, was capturing our clientele in these various places. The entrepreneurial bug that was very much a part of what I did for all those years stuck, and I found that love of photography that I had both underwater and topside doing all that travel carried through into child and family photography. So I started primarily with families and some children, and then stumbled my way into volume, as I'm sure we're going to talk about.
Tell me a little bit about that stumbled into volume photography. What was the first big job that you did that really required a lot of planning and organization on location? Because otherwise you'll just lose track of who you're shooting and where to send all the photos to.
So the way this started for me, it was at a Christmas party with cocktails in hand, a full disclosure, and a colleague of my husband wife had a private preschool, and we were talking about photography, and he said, oh, you're a photographer, you should come photograph the children at my wife's school. So in thinking about the idea of school pictures, that certainly wasn't something that I was interested in at all, because I really had my niche. I loved what I was doing. And then the more the conversation continued, he started to describe the school to me, and most importantly, the demographic of the parents whose children attended the school. And I immediately saw an opportunity. I wanted to get in front of those people. It really wasn't even about the school pictures. It was just this incredible market. And keep in mind, this was about an hour and a half away from me, so it wasn't even in my immediate market. But I saw this opportunity to get in front of these parents, and I thought, okay, I'll do it. I'll figure out how to do it later. But I want my work in front of these parents. All of the stereotypes and preconceived ideas about school pictures that I didn't want to do, I ran through with her. I said, I want to shoot outdoors, on location, in natural light, which is not indoors in the gym with a backdrop and big, right? And at the time, this was 15 years ago. So I had never seen it before, but I said, this is what I want to do. And she said, great. I said, I don't want the children in uniform. I want them in their cute outfits that, mom and dad picked out for them. I want to photograph siblings together. I want to show them multiple images. I don't want to use paper order forms. All of the things that we had seen in school pictures or volume photography to that point, I said, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it my way. And she basically said, okay, whatever you want to do. So I got in the car, drove home, and realized, oh my gosh, I just committed to photographing 200 children and their siblings. And to date, the biggest volume day I had ever had was maybe, 8 family mini sessions on a Saturday. So, I was hyperventilating in the car, and I just realized, like, you know what, where there's a will, there's a way. I'll figure this out. And did a lot of things manually, did a lot of things the wrong way, did a lot of things the hard way. But what I learned was, not only did I have an opportunity to be in front of those parents, which was my number one goal, I found out really quickly just how profitable the volume side, the school pictures themselves were. And then I was all in.
So you have 200 kids to shoot. And then that long ago, are you still delivering everything online?
Total nightmare. When I look back and I think about the way I do it now, which is infinitely better at every step of the process, it was manual. I had lists of children's names that we checked off to be sure that we, photographed everybody. All of the images went into one giant gallery for the day. So parents were sifting through pages and pages and pages in an online gallery. I did find at the time, I don't even know if it exists anymore, an online shopping cart of sorts that I was able to use. The tool that I use now, Got Photo, didn't exist back then. So I had this shopping cart that, would have a few hundred images in it. Parents would have to sift through all those photos to eventually get to their child. And you can just imagine the nightmare of something like that today with privacy concerns. There were parents who would say, well, why did that student have 10 pictures and my child only had 2? And there were so many. It was a nightmare. But you know what? It was profitable. People were happy because they loved the images. So they were willing to sift through all of the nonsense to get to their child. And then ultimately were thrilled with the results because this was something that they had never seen before. But to answer your question, I was delivering digital files by individual Dropbox folders. I was ordering with rows, individual orders. They were all coming through this online shopping cart system. But I then had to print out all those orders, and I would sit, in the wee hours of the night. I think my family didn't see me for I don't know how many weeks. And I would order individually in rows each client's print package. And then for those that ordered digital files, I was delivering them with Dropbox. So, you've been at this a long time. You can imagine the time with each of these steps, but I kept doing it because it was amazing for my business.
Can you remember the deal that you struck with that school at the beginning? And can you talk a little bit about how whatever that deal was is different from your average deal today? Or maybe you have different deals for every individual school?
because each school operates differently, because the demographics of each school are different, I can make individual deals, if you will. Some of the schools I work with, there is no deal. They don't pay me. Everything is paid directly by the parents based on what they order. I don't do prepay because I'm promising to deliver something that I know parents will love. So there's no commitment upfront from the parent, and the only commitment upfront from the school is to just create the opportunity for me to deliver beautiful images. Now, with schools where they've transitioned from somebody maybe where there was a deal, as you say, where they're getting a percentage of sales or some other offer, usually what I will do in understanding what the school's needs are, it's not often just that they want a check. I have some schools where I'll say, you know what, I'm going to spend 2 hours at school. We're going to call this a commercial photography session, and I'm going to create marketing images for you to use on your website and in all your collateral. And sometimes maybe it is a check. Sometimes you're making a donation to their foundation or their parent-teacher organization. But you can get creative, and I don't feel that there's a blanket approach to that piece of the equation when you're working with a school. The spring is a great opportunity to get into this world because, like you said, the yearbook and all those traditional things are happening in the fall. But in the spring, there's an opportunity to go in and maybe even start with, for instance, maybe it's a school that is K through 8th grade. So you go to them and you say, hey, I'd love for you to give me a try. Let me photograph your 8th grade soon-to-be graduates. Maybe in a preschool, it's kindergarten or it's the oldest children. You know, I always feel like anytime there's an opportunity to photograph a milestone, that's a great way to segue and create an opportunity and a chance for you to go in and kind of start something new.
Can we talk in general about numbers? I don't have the slightest idea what people are charging, what clients are willing to pay.
I photograph every child at the school or every child who's registered. In some cases, we do have some pre-registration. And I'm going to show in their gallery 4 to 5 unique images, meaning there may be a headshot, there may be a full body, there may be a giggly one, a serious one. But again, going back to what we talked about in terms of variety, I'm going to show them 4 to 5 unique images. I'm then going to convert those to black and white. So the gallery has, call it 6 to 10 images. The digital files for that student's gallery, I sell for $137. Print packages start at $35 and go up to like $279. Now, this is for preschools, elementary schools. I currently go up to 8th grade. When you start talking about things like contract seniors and other scenarios, the pricing is going to be different, but the number of images that they see is different. The variety is different. There are so many pieces to that equation that I just always want to be sure that people are thoughtful when they're building a price list and it isn't just about what somebody else is charging.
And for these private schools, what percentage of the parents are actually purchasing anything at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. My average is 78%. There are all sorts of numbers in the industry. Yeah. So I honestly couldn't tell you what the nationwide average is, but because I looked before our call, and I'm at 78%.
I'm sure you have like a system perfectly lined up. So let's go through a private elementary school shoot. Walk me through the steps of how in the world, like I don't even understand the process of you're seeing this little kid in front of your camera. Do you have to have their name and their parents' contact before that moment? Are you getting it from the kid? How does this work?
I'm going to talk about a job that I may be doing next week. So I have this school, let's say there are 100 students. In advance, that school is going to provide me with the children's names, their teacher or class, 3rd grade, Mrs. Johnson, so that I have some way of just grouping them together. Not necessary, but a nice to have. They're also going to include parent contact information in email and sometimes phone. Now, sometimes people say, oh, the school's never going to give me that. So here's the thing. If you say to your school, look, as soon as the parent logs in to look at these pictures, they're logging in with all that information. I'm going to get it. So let's just make it easier on everybody on the front side and give it to me before we start, because it makes the entire process go so much more smoothly. I don't get resistance. I'm near Washington, D.C. We've got all sorts of people who do all sorts of jobs. There's a lot of security and privacy. I don't have an issue with this.
When you say they're giving you all of like the kids' information, the parents' information, does that have to be in some super specific file format for you to upload it? Like that seems like that could be a nightmare in itself.
Whatever online platform or app that they're using to keep track of their school database, it spits it right out for them in exactly the format I told you about, like by teacher, by class. So every once in a while, we'll get something that feels a little bit manual, but it's usually like a very small preschool or daycare where there are 15 or 20 students. So that comes to us in a spreadsheet, and then we simply upload it, and Got Photo says, oh, this must be the student's first name. Is that correct? Yes. Last name? Yes. Teacher name. And you're just clicking the boxes saying, yep, these are the bits of information that I'm asking you to ingest here. And then from that, it creates the job and maintains all that information for you. Now in advance, I have the ability, because that information is in my system, I can start communicating with permission of the school. I always ask in advance. I can start communicating with parents in advance of picture day. Hey, let me tell you how picture day is going to go, right? I photograph your child outdoors, make sure they have a sweater on, make sure they have good shoes on, because I'm going to photograph their full body. Before picture day, I am going to print out from Got Photo the QR cards. That's our lingo. Basically, it's just printing the student's name, the teacher info, the other info I mentioned that came from that spreadsheet, with a QR code on the piece of paper. So when the student comes up to be photographed, my assistant or somebody from the school, if you're working alone, hands the student that piece of paper, or maybe the teacher holds it up, they hold it up, we take a picture of that QR code. And now every subsequent image that I take of that child until I photograph a new QR code stays with that child. So now we have all the images. They go through our usual post-production process, right? We're culling, because if I'm going to show 4 or 5, I may take 12, I may take 20. I am going to ensure that I have sellable images, because that's how I get to 78%. And then when we upload the images back into Got Photo with the pictures of the QR codes, it works its magic and automatically puts them all where they're supposed to go.
When you said you're reaching out to the parents, is that just email blasting, or do you have any like text message things set up as well?
There is text messaging in Got Photo. So I find texting personally to be a little bit invasive, but all of my clients are saying, we're 30 somethings, we want you to text us. So that's something that I'm learning to embrace a little bit, but it absolutely is functionality within the platform.
The school's giving you the contact info for both the mother and the father, and if so, are you blasting all of them on both email and text?
Sometimes they will give you the primary contact. Sometimes they will give you both. I send the messages to whoever I have on my list, because you never know, are parents together or divorced? Sometimes there's a grandparent who's a second contact, and everybody wants grandparents to buy school pictures, right? That's a sale you don't want to miss. So I feel like they easily can unsubscribe. In our house, I'm the school picture orderer, if you will. So my husband disregards, if he receives those emails, he could always unsubscribe if he wanted to. But that's a school by school scenario. But I message everybody on the list. Now, I do want to tell you though, one of the things that's really cool about this communication in Got Photo, I can message everyone. I can message just the kindergarten class. I can message just the families that have siblings. I can also just message those who haven't purchased yet. So the ability to filter down in the communication and really personalize the communication is incredible, because that can serve you both in the job. And then again, jumping ahead, because I mentioned I've got all these other genres I'm doing. We have Santa coming to the studio in December. So I'm going to go into that job that goes pre-K through 8th grade. And my Santa information is going to go pre-K through 3rd grade, right? I can message those parents specifically about events and other things that are happening in the studio, because I have the ability to really drill down and filter with the platform.
Back to the example shoot. So you've got everything uploaded. I guess you hit publish or something like that. And then does the software automatically message everyone and say your individual gallery is available right here?
At the root of all of this communication are email templates. So I can either use templates that are already loaded, which are fine, but I want everything to be very on brand for me. So I want my email blasts that are going to parents to look like they came from Heather Crowder Modern Portraits, not the school photography website. So my Got Photo, all of my Got Photo stuff is very branded to me. So it's seamless. So they're getting the same vibe, whether we're talking about school pictures or Santa or family portraits or headshots, it all looks the same. So I have a series of email templates that I created. Your photos are ready to view, your coupon is about to expire, it's the last day to order, these sorts of things. And those templates then can become part of a communication profile. When I set the job to selling, I can have it automatically do that, because I told it, I want you to use this fall 2024 communication profile that I created, or you can take a more manual approach if that's what you choose to do.
How many assistants are you bringing on these jobs? Because I've talked with other volume photographers and they have a team of people, and maybe they're not even shooting anymore. They just kind of own the business. It sounds like you're doing all of this.
People often put up barriers. This is why that won't work for me. This is why I can't do volume. This is why I can't. I know you hear this all the time in our industry. So I first want to say, yes, you can. And yes, you can do it all by yourself. I did it all by myself for years. Is that the best way? No. But you really don't need a lot of help. You certainly don't need skilled help for what I'm describing to you. You can, maybe there's a parent at the school. You have a mom friend. You have a college student that happens to be home when you are photographing the school. They can be your helper. They can make sure that shoes are tied and kids have QR codes, and they can help corral and do the things that you need on site. You don't necessarily need a skilled photographer to assist. And because I'm natural light outside, I'm not setting up lights. So I'm a pretty lean machine when it comes to the schoolwork that I do. So I think anytime there's an opportunity to have help, that's awesome. But don't let that be a reason why you don't start, because you can absolutely be a one-man or one-woman show when you're getting your feet wet and learning.
This will be my final question. What do you feel like the best advice is for somebody who's already a photographer? Everybody's struggling to make the money that they want to. They're probably listening to you going, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. Like, you've made school portraits sound like actually a cool job and it pays well. But I don't know any people that work for a private school. How in the world am I going to get my first job? What do you suggest?
The best thing to do is really think through first, like, who do I know? You can also go to local resources. There's something called greatschools.org. We also have a magazine. You probably have one in your town as well. It's like an advertorial, the best dentists and the best lawyers. Well, there's often a best private schools issue. And then you look at one of these lists and you go down and you say, oh, here's one that's, K through 5. This pre-K through 5th grade. This sounds amazing. I love that age group. Oh, but you know what? That school has 700 students. Maybe not the best place to start. Oh, here's one. This has 100 students. This is perfect. So let's see. Who do I know that may be connected? There may be somebody on your child's soccer team that works there. I think if you think outside the box and you use your network, undoubtedly you will, what is it, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever that is, undoubtedly you will chart your path to a school that's a great place to start. Maybe it's a daycare. Maybe it's a really small school, 25 students.
Well, Heather, this was amazing. I never thought that I could get inspired talking about school portrait photography. Every joke I've ever heard about photography has to do with school portrait photographers my entire life. So thank you for changing that. And thank you for giving people kind of like an insight into your specific business plan. I think a lot of people are going to attempt this in their own cities now.
I hope so, because it really has opened so many doors. It changed the trajectory of my business without a doubt.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. I have never heard of a photographer doing anything like this. Most photographers are struggling to find their next clients. Heather's figured out a way to get paid to find new clients and then get paid, in perpetuity because they hire her for jobs year after year after year. And here's the crazy thing, a part of this video we had to edit out for time. Heather actually said that the school photography side of her business is a very small percentage of her income. And now one of the largest areas of her business is actually doing corporate headshots in the exact same way, using the exact same software, but just going into corporations rather than schools. So there are so many opportunities here. If you're interested in volume photography, definitely check out Got Photo. We only touched on a very small bit of what this software is actually capable of doing. So if you have an idea of like, oh, I wish it would do this, it probably does that. It's totally free to sign up, and if you use the link in the description, you can get an extra 3 months totally for free. And if you're worried that like, this seems complicated, I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure it out, they have a great education system which kind of answers every question that you could want. They also have an amazing community of other volume photographers, and they're all willing to help each other. So definitely check it out. Thanks for watching.